The car ride home was awful. Mark's relentless questions about my disappearance, laced with thinly veiled accusations, chipped away at my carefully constructed composure. And then, the cherry on top, Sandra moved in. Temporarily, Mark insisted, while she finds her feet. Ha! Like that woman has ever needed help finding her feet. She's got stiletto heels and she's not afraid to stab you in the back. Every nerve in my body is on fire. Mark has the kids upstairs playing the devoted dad after days of stony silence. Sandra glares at me from the kitchen, supervising dinner with military precision. You feeling better, Allison? It sounds like a concern, but it drips with sarcasm. Just a little overwhelmed, I manage. It's the closest I can get to the truth. That my entire world is collapsing. And these two are the architects of my destruction. Jake's been texting nonstop. He's worried, but there's a hint of desperation in his messages now. Wants to meet. Says it's urgent. I can't risk it. Mark's on high alert and Sandra's probably got hidden cameras in every corner of this damn house. The stifling normalcy of dinner is torture. Sandra's passive-aggressive comments about family supporting each other make my skin crawl. Mark offers empty platitudes about therapy, about giving our marriage one more shot. I want to scream. Doesn't he know he's the one who broke it all? Not just with the affair, but with the lies, the shady deals? That night, I lie awake, staring at the ceiling. I need a plan. I don't even know who the enemy is anymore. Sure, Sandra hates my guts. But is she behind the blackmail? Or is this all about Mark's tangled web of deceit? And how did Jake get pulled into this whole mess? I feel a flash of anger. At Jake for the recklessness of our affair. At Mark for being the reason I even looked elsewhere. But mostly, the rage burns inward. How did I become so blind, so complicit in my own misery? The blackmail emails haven't stopped. They've changed tone though. It's less about exposing me to Mark. More about the damage those revelations would cause him. Threats about financial irregularities. Hinting at his business dealings. So this isn't some jealous lover or scorned ex-employee. It's someone who knows exactly how to destroy him. Is that my out? I almost laugh. The wife. The scorned one. Becoming the unlikely savior. Exposing Mark's shady secrets might ruin me as well, but honestly, there's not much left to ruin. It's a risky game, and I'm already in way over my head. I desperately need an ally. Someone I trust with my life. My gut tells me it's not Beth. Not anymore. She means well, but she's too loyal. Too quick to offer the practical solution. This mess needs something more drastic. Grace, the private investigator. She's sharp. Cynical. She'll get the kind of twisted satisfaction I need out of all this. The question is, can I trust her? She knows all my dirty laundry. Holds the evidence right in her hands. If I played this wrong, the kids. My heart aches just thinking about them. How the hell do I protect them when their own father, their own grandmother, are the ones tearing our world apart? I'm their mother. I'm supposed to keep them safe, but what if I make it worse? Sleep is impossible. My mind spins in circles, every scenario ending in disaster. I need clarity. A decision. And then it hits me. Jake. He was there at the beginning. He has a stake in this, whether he admits it or not. Yes, he messed up big time, but if there's one person who understands this level of desperation, it's him. I glance at the clock. It's past 2 a.m. Screw it. I slip out of bed, careful not to wake Mark, and grab my phone. My fingers tremble slightly as I type out the message I've been avoiding. We need to talk. Tomorrow. It's life or death. My heart thuds in my ears as I stare at the computer screen. The sender is masked behind a string of random numbers and letters, yet their intent is crystal clear. It's confirmation. My tormentor knows about Jake. They know everything. I sit motionless, paralyzed by a strange mix of fear and morbid curiosity. Should I open it? Is it another twisted trap filled with photos and accusations to ensure my complete devastation? A wave of nausea hits. Maybe ignorance would have been better. But now I need to know exactly what I'm facing. My finger hovers over the mouse. Do it. A dark voice whispers insidiously. Don't be a coward. My pulse quickens as I click. The email is short, sinister. No graphic evidence of my affair, just meticulously detailed accusations. Dates and times of my rendezvous with Jake. Descriptions of our usual meeting spots. There's even an unsettling mention of the tattoo on his shoulder. The one I foolishly confided in him about. This isn't the work of an amateur. Then a veiled threat. They promised to reveal all to Mark, but only as a last resort. The implication is clear. Cooperate or face total destruction. But cooperate? How? What the hell do they want from me? Money? No, that feels too simple. This person, whoever they are, enjoys their cruelty. It's about power, control. And they have it all. I'm their puppet now and I don't even understand the play. A chilling thought strikes. What if they don't reveal the affair? What if they set Mark up somehow, pin a crime on him? The blackmail emails hinted at Mark's shady business dealings. Could this be an elaborate revenge scheme? One where I'm just collateral damage? My phone bursts to life. It's Jake. Relief washes over me for a second. And then I remember the urgency of his earlier message. His voice is a panicked rush when I answer. Barely a greeting. Someone reached out to my brother. They know about us. They want money, Allison. A lot of money, he spills out. My stomach churns. How did they find him? How did I trail off, the enormity of it crushing me? I don't know, could Mark have someone tailing me? Or I don't even know who would do this. Jake sounds close to tears. His desperation fuels my own, but I force myself to think. What did your brother say? To meet tomorrow. A secluded spot outside town. I told him I'd bring cash. Don't go, I snap back. It's dangerous. We need to go to the police. You're kidding, right? Cops? They'll expose our affair. Besides, this isn't some random mugging. Whoever's behind it is too connected. They'll know if we go to the authorities. His words hit uncomfortably close to home. There's a twisted logic in it. One that speaks to the kind of people we might be dealing with. So what do we do then? Just give them money. I can't even get that kind of cash, I say, panic bleeding into my voice. The silence on the line stretches. It's the unspoken truth. Neither of us has any answers. I'll meet them. I need to try and reason with them. But you, Allison. Jake's voice trails off, a mixture of fear and reluctant acceptance. I know I need to disappear, I say it hollowly, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Where do I even go? How do I explain this to the kids? Mark's footsteps coming up the stairs snap me back into the present. I slam the laptop shut, my movements frantic. Just another day in my perfect crumbling world. My fingers tremble as I open the cabinet under the bathroom sink. My emergency stash, not the first aid kit, but the other one. The bundle of wrinkled cash I painstakingly collected. Birthday money from my parents I never spent. Forgotten checks from distant relatives. It's pitiful. Nowhere near what Jake's blackmailer demanded, but it's all I have. Pathetic. That word circles my mind like a vulture. It applies to almost every aspect of my life right now. It's pathetic that this is the best I can do. It's pathetic that I even entertained the idea that running away was a solution, let alone a practical one. Yesterday I called in sick to the soup kitchen. I spent the entire day packing a single small suitcase and making heartbreaking to-do lists for Mark. School pickup schedules, the bet's number, reminders about the allergies. It was like penning instructions for my own erasure. Mark was strangely solicitous, asking about my doctor's appointment and suggesting takeout for dinner. His guilt, or more likely his desire to regain control, is suffocating. I'm starting to see why people in these situations just cave. Give in to the blackmail. It'd be easier. Maybe I'd get some peace. A few months before the next demand, the next escalation. But the thought of rewarding this monster, this shadowy figure destroying me from afar. No. There's a flicker of defiant anger left in me, and I'm going to cling to it with all I've got. Beth calls. She's been relentless, a lifeline in this self-imposed isolation. You okay? Any word from Jake? Yeah, I force myself to say it out loud. Maybe then it'll feel more real. I gave him the money, all I could find. He's needing them today. There's a beat of silence. Allison, that's crazy. This won't end, you know that, right? Beth's voice is sharp, frustration bleeding through. She's not wrong. What else could I do? Sit and wait for them to turn up on our doorstep? At least this way, maybe Jake can figure something out. I try to sound convincing, but even to my own ears, it rings hollow. Beth sighs. I'm heading over. This whole thing is a mess, but you shouldn't deal with it alone. Her tone softens slightly. She's a true friend, sometimes to a fault. Her loyalty has never wavered, not even now when I'm at my least deserving. When Beth arrives, my kitchen counter is transformed into a makeshift war room. My laptop is open, displaying maps of the secluded area where Jake's meeting is supposed to take place. Beside it, Jake's cryptic text with the location details. I've been staring at it so long, the words blur and warp. What about Grace, your investigator? Can she trace the phone? Beth asks after surveying the scene. No luck. Whoever's behind the blackmail is good. It's either a burner or routed through so many proxies it's pointless. I wave a hand in frustration. I'd half hoped Grace might uncover something, anything to give a name to this faceless torment. Beth bites her lip. She knows I'm out of options, that I'm placing an impossible amount of faith in Jake and his ability to manage a situation he's ill-equipped to handle, yet she doesn't voice the obvious. We drive. It's the middle of the day, the road's busy with ordinary, unremarkable lives. I should be at school pickup, wrangling the kids into the car for soccer practice. Instead, I'm about to witness the fallout of one disastrous decision, its consequences rippling outwards in ways I can't even predict. The area Jake described is exactly as sinister as it sounded. Abandoned warehouses, overgrown lots, the relics of some failed industrial project. We park a safe distance away, using binoculars to scan the desolate landscape. Do you see him? I try to keep my voice steady, but the binoculars tremble in my hands. There! A flicker of movement outside a crumbling, half-built structure. It's Jake. My heart sinks. He's alone. My hands squeeze the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turn white. We're too far away to see clearly, but the tension between Jake and the figures looming over him is unmistakable. One, burly and menacing. Another, smaller, concealed beneath a bulky hoodie. Neither faces us. A calculated move, likely intentional from whoever set this up. Jake's an idiot, Beth mutters beside me. He should have never gone alone. A surge of guilt washes over me. Yes, it's a stupid risk, but he's doing this because of me. Because I was too cowardly to face the consequences of my actions. My stomach twists as I consider if this goes wrong, Jake might pay the price for my mistakes. We watch helplessly. The figures approach Jake, forming a semicircle. One of them gestures threateningly. They're too far for us to hear the words, but the intent is clear. It's enough to break the fragile dam holding back my panic. I can't just sit here. I almost shout, my voice raw. I fumble for the car door handle, but Beth grabs my arm. Allison, stop. We'll make everything worse. Look. Her sudden urgency forces me to focus. Jake is holding out the envelope with the cash. The exchange happens quickly. Money for silence. The figures turn to leave. It seems anticlimactic. A tense, terrible moment hanging in the air, and then it might just be over. Relief washes over me, but it quickly curdles into suspicion. This feels too easy. My tormentor, whoever they are, enjoys playing games. Would they really just take the money and disappear? The answer comes a moment later. Jake is on the ground, doubled over. One of the figures, the burly one, kicks him viciously. The other stands by, almost casually, as if this is part of the agreed-upon deal. I feel sick watching the assault unfold helplessly from afar. Oh my God, he's going to kill him. Beth's voice is a terrified whisper. I don't stop to think. There's only a primal instinct taking over. I throw the car into reverse, slamming my foot on the gas pedal. The tires squeal as I tear out of our hiding spot, aiming straight for the scene. Beth screams my name, but it's lost beneath the roar of the engine. I see the assailants scramble as the car hurtles towards them, but my focus is solely on Jake. I have to get him out of there. I can only imagine the thoughts racing through those men's minds. A surprise attack? A woman scorned coming to the rescue? I pray on whatever sliver of rationality they have left that it's enough to make them retreat before things turn truly deadly. The chaos happens in a blur. Screeching tires, shouts, Jake scrambling towards the car, Beth's panicked voice in my ear, dust and fear clogging my throat as I gun the engine and swing the car around in a whiplash turn. I don't see the men again. Jake stumbles into the passenger seat, clutching his side and gasping for breath. We speed away, my heart pounding a frantic tattoo against my ribs. Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay, I babble, glancing at Jake. He's bruised, bleeding slightly, but alive. That's the only thing that matters right now. My hands still shake from adrenaline hours later, driving Jake to a discreet urgent care clinic. My thoughts were a chaotic jumble. We concocted a story about a mugging gone wrong, vague enough to explain the bruises without arousing too much suspicion. We didn't stick around long enough for questions. Get some rest, I tell him, as I drop him off in a dimly lit part of town. I'll check in later, stay off your phone for a while. He nods numbly, the fight gone out of him. We both know this is far from over. Back at home, an eerie normalcy descends. It's like the eye of a hurricane, a temporary lull before the true destruction. Mark fusses around me, a strange mix of anger and misplaced concern. He questions my erratic behavior, my unexplained trip to the doctor. I offer short replies, feigning exhaustion. He doesn't buy it entirely, but plays along for now. Sandra, ever the opportunist, swoops in under the guise of supporting the family. She cooks, cleans, casts suspicious glances my way. The kids look on, a mixture of confusion and relief. Domestic order is restored, even if the foundation it rests on is rotten to the core. My phone buzzes. It's Grace. I rush to the bathroom, locking the door behind me as if that offers any real privacy. You need to see this. Grace's voice crackles through the speaker. She's usually unflappable, but there's an urgency in her tone now that sends a shiver down my spine. Tell me, I almost whisper, bracing myself. I trace the blackmail emails further than I thought possible. Multiple redirects, dummy servers, the works. But they slicked up, left a trace. The IP resolved to a residential address. My pulse quickens. Whose address? Your mother-in-law's. The words slam against me like a physical blow. No, it can't be. Sure, Sandra hates me, but this? This is something else entirely. Her hatred is petty, vindictive. This calculated torment, the threats against Jake, the connection to Mark's shady dealings? It doesn't add up. Are you sure? I managed to squeak out. There has to be a mistake. Positive. No room for error. I'll send you the full report. The call ends abruptly. I stare at my reflection in the mirror. Is this what I've become? A stranger to myself, trapped in a house of horrors, surrounded by monsters disguised as loved ones. Betrayal cuts deeper than any blackmail threat. I feel a white-hot rage consume me, not towards Sandra, but towards Mark. His lies, whatever darkness he's hidden from everyone, all of it facilitated my blind complicity. Maybe Sandra is my tormentor, motivated by a twisted desire to punish him through me. It's almost laughable. I'm caught in the crossfire of a war I never saw coming. Beth arrives later that evening, armed with takeout and a bottle of wine. I don't even try to protest. We sit on the couch in my perfectly manicured living room, surrounded by the trappings of a life I no longer recognize. So what's the play, do you tell Mark? This can't continue, Beth says after a long, contemplative sip of her wine. I don't know. I stare at my reflection in the wine glass, the liquid swirling inside. It's not a question of if, but when, everything will shatter. For the first time, I see not only the wreckage of my life, but also the possibility of rebuilding amidst the ashes. I wake to the sound of rain. The steady drumming against the cabin's roof should be soothing. Instead, it mirrors the relentless chaos raging in my head. I spent the night tossing and turning, my mind a tangled web of accusations, revelations, and desperate plans. I replay Grace's report over and over in my head. Sandra's accounts, the money trail, it all points to Jake's mysterious cousin. I still can't wrap my brain around it. Jake, my lover, turning into another villain in this twisted story? Beth texts with an update. More news coverage. Mark making public pleas for my return. Photos of the kids plastered on local newsstands. Pawns in a desperate bid for sympathy. Sandra, surprisingly, is silent. Is it calculated strategy, or did I misjudge her role in all this? My phone buzzes. It's him. Jake. We need to talk. His voice is a raspy whisper, filled with desperation and something else. Fear. Where are you? I try to keep my voice steady, but a tremor of anticipation runs through me. The end of the blackmail, or another trap? The park. The one we used to meet. Please, Allison, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. His voice trails off. A plea hanging heavy in the air. Intuition, or is it foolishness, pushes me to agree. Despite everything, there's a flicker of hope. Could this be a way out? Could Jake hold the answers, not as a perpetrator, but as an unexpected ally? The rain has stopped, leaving the park eerily empty. The swings creak in the breeze, a chilling soundtrack to my solitude. I perch on a bench, scanning the paths for any sign of Jake. There. A familiar figure emerges from the thinning mist. My heart thuds against my ribs as he approaches. Jake looks disheveled, haunted. He collapses onto the bench next to me, burying his head in his hands. I'm so sorry, he chokes out. For all of it, he explains, his voice gaining strength as he pours out the sordid truth. His cousin, a low-level grifter caught in mounting debt. The blackmail scheme that spiraled out of control. Not a grand plan, but a desperate act fueled by greed. Jake was meant to be little more than a pawn, a believable target for my affections. He never dreamed it'd escalate to threats of physical harm, or that my tormentor would turn her sights on him as well. Claire. I say her name aloud, a bitter taste in my mouth. She used you, Jake nods, shame etched across his face. She knew about my debts, knew my weaknesses. Promised a quick fix, a way out. Said you were an easy mark, a lowly rich housewife? My hands curl into fists. Betrayal slices through me, from Claire, from Jake, from my own blindness. Mark has to know, I mutter, more to myself than to Jake. It's a desperate act of self-preservation now. Mark's secrets are my shield, a weapon to wield against this woman who wants to destroy us both. Are you sure? Jake's voice holds a flicker of hope, a selfish desire to keep his own sins hidden. It sparks a flicker of disgust within me. We're all ruined anyway, I say grimly. Let's at least try to control how the wreckage falls. And with that, a plan forms. A risky, desperate plan with no guarantee of success. But what choice do I have? other than to remain a pawn in someone else's vicious game? My hands feel clammy as I push open the heavy door of the police station. The stereo lights, the smell of stale coffee, it all brings back a visceral wave of nausea. I was here just days ago, but I feel like a different person. Stronger, pardoned, stripped of the naivete that got me into this nightmare. Detective Carter greets me, his expression a careful mix of weariness and something approaching grudging respect. Mrs. Thorne? He nods curtly, gesturing toward an interrogation room. Even my name feels foreign now, a relic of a life that no longer exists. He lays it out. The charges leveled against Mark, the damning evidence, Claire's confession outlining the web of deceit. He spares me the gory details, but it's clear Mark's fall will be swift and complete. Sandra's fate is less certain, her role more calculated, hidden behind shell companies and plausible deniability. Questions follow, relentless and sharp, digging into my affair with Jake, the depths of my willful blindness. There's judgment in the detective's eyes, but also a flicker of understanding. A woman caught in her own gilded cage, fighting for survival with the only weapon she knew. Walking out of the station, I don't feel vindication, just a dull exhaustion. There's no winning here, only degrees of loss. I head straight to Mark's sprawling office, the place that was once the symbol of his success, now a target for media vultures and bankruptcy lawyers. He's hunched over his desk, a broken figure. The hatred radiating from him is palpable, but for the first time, I don't cower from it. How could you? He spits out. I gave you everything. Everything was a lie, Mark, a house of cards built on stolen money and other people's ruin, I retort, my voice steady. There's no room for his self-pity, not when my own life is in shambles. The fight leaves him, replaced by a bitter resignation. I watch him sign papers I only half understand, legal jargon that translates into a future far less lavish than the one I was promised. There's a small satisfaction in seeing his world crumble, a sliver of justice in his downfall. Beth is my lifeline through the ensuing chaos. We spend countless nights poring over documents, deciphering legal strategies. She's both my lawyer and my rock, a constant in a world devoid of any familiar ground. My children, their faces haunt my sleepless nights. Too young to understand, old enough to sense the brokenness. Shared custody becomes a battleground, Mark wielding their hurt as ammunition against me. It's a pain unlike any I've ever known, the guilt of my choices cutting deepest now. The volunteering starts as an act of desperation, a need to fill the empty hours, to feel some kind of purpose besides untangling a lifetime of deceit. The victim support group is where I end up, women and men, their eyes mirroring my own haunted desperation. Their stories unfold in hushed tones in sterile meeting rooms, stolen inheritances, retirement funds gambled away, betrayals that shatter families. Listening, I see the human cost of Mark's greed. I help where I can, small gestures against an ocean of suffering. There's no redemption in it, only a desperate grasping for a way to make amends, to rebuild myself from the inside out. 1 year later, sitting in a crowded coffee shop, I see him. Jake. He looks older, thinner, a shadow of the man I thought I knew. I freeze, unsure if I should hide, run, or face him head on. He notices me, a flicker of recognition, hesitation. Then he walks over. Can we talk? He asks, his voice hoarse. Awkward silences stretch between stilted apologies. Shared regrets are spilled alongside bitter truths. We dissect the wreckage of our choices, knowing neither of us deserves absolution, perhaps not even forgiveness. As he gets up to leave, a strange understanding settles between us. There's no promise of a second chance, of rekindled passion, only a shared acknowledgement of the storm we both weathered and the uncertain paths that lie ahead. My walk home is solitary. The future is still hazy, fraught with custody battles, uncertain finances, and the lingering sting of betrayal. But for the first time in a long while, I feel a sliver of hope. Not for a